So there are two questions I get asked just about every day. Question number one, Todd, how do I become a high value guy? Question number two, Todd, how do I get hotter girls? And the answer to both questions is the same concept. This is a concept I call leveling. If you followed me for a while, you may have heard this concept before. It's one of the most important concepts in my style of game. It's also a concept that features prominently in my course, The System, which, just a quick reminder, if you're not aware of it already, the launch special price on the system ends in less than 48 hours from the time you're watching this video. So you want to check it out right now. That price will not be available for more than 48 hours. I'm not going to talk a lot about that course. People have said some amazing things. You can check it out at systembytodd.com, see what people have been saying. But just to tell you, 48 hours or less from watching this video, that price will be gone. All right, with that said, let's get into leveling. Let's get into how you can up your value as a guy and up the quality of the girls that you are getting. Let's do that right now. In order to understand leveling, you have to first understand a couple things about how women view men and what women are looking for in men. The first of these is that women are rating men just as men are rating women. Although for women, it's not just on appearance, right? So we see a hot girl, we're like, oh, she's a 7, she's a 10, whatever. For women, it's more based on your social feedback, your behavior, your status in society. Really what it is it's how good of an option would you have been genetically and socially for raising an offspring in the environment in which we evolved, right? And that's what she's assessing you on a scale from 1 to 10 on. Second thing you have to understand is that girls don't necessarily all want just the most high value guy, because for a girl, it's not just about like getting pregnant with a guy, it's about actually having the guy stick around and raise the kid. So what the girl wants actually is a guy who's out of her league, but only a little bit out of her league, enough so that there's a good chance he would actually stick around and help out with raising a kid. So a girl that's like a 7 is a little intimidated, scared by a guy who's a 10, isn't really looking for a guy who's a 10 necessarily, but it would be really, really happy with a guy who's an 8. Because that would be a win for her, but at the same time, it's plausible, believable, it makes sense that he would stick around, help her raise the kids, and be a good father. All right, so that's what the woman is really looking for. And so what this means is, as you develop yourself as a man, as you develop certain traits that are indicating where your level is, it may work really well with certain girls and not as well with others, right? And that last little bit I said is very important. I said there are certain indicators of what your level is. There are certain things you can say that I call honest signals of exactly where you are. An honest signal that you are a 7 out of 10, or an honest signal you're an 8 out of 10, or a 4 out of 10, or whatever. I'll give you an example of this in the area of fashion. I'll give you an example of what some low-level behaviors and what some higher-level behaviors and what some really high-level behaviors in fashion might be. So in fashion, really low level would be, let's say that you wear cheap, dirty Kmart clothes, right? That doesn't convey a lot of really good things about you. It conveys not a lot of money, not a lot of sense of style, not a lot of care towards your appearance. That's pretty low value as a guy. That's like maybe like a 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10 rating as a guy. Let's say then, instead of that, you have maybe some like Levi's jeans, Nike shirt, but let's say, it's just like standard Levi's jeans, standard Nike shirt, not fitting the greatest. That's kind of average. That's maybe like 4 or 5 as a guy, something like that, right? Way better than the Kmart guy, but still nobody's gonna look and be like, oh my God, that guy's so well dressed. Absolutely not happening. Next level up might be like you wear brands, but they don't necessarily fit you that well, or they don't necessarily coordinate that well, but they're nice brands. Or maybe say, for example, you're wearing like a business suit, right? Like a relatively nice business suit, not cheap, but not like super tailored, not like Italian and, like fucking like super cut, like bespoke to your body, but like a nice business suit. It says you're successful, you're not poor, you probably have a good job, but it's not saying you're super, super cool. If you show up to like a hot club wearing that business suit, they're not gonna be like, come right this way, sir. They're gonna be like, would you like to buy a bottle, sir? Because they're gonna assume you maybe have some money, but they're not gonna assume you're the kind of guy that's bringing value to the club just by being cool. On the other hand, really high level fashion would be having sort of what the brand is that's like in the mode at the moment, and also well-fitting, in style. You're not dressed up in the sense of like dressed up in a suit and tie, but you're well dressed. You've given some care to your appearance. You're the look the club is looking for. You show up and they're like, okay, this guy belongs, this guy fits in. And girls are thinking the same thing. This guy clearly not only is successful, but also gets it. So those are kind of the various levels in terms of fashion and style, and how girls will respond to those various levels. And right away from the first second, she can take one look at you and know which of those levels you're at. And she can know, oh, this guy's like a 2 out of 10 or this guy's like a 9 out of 10, okay? That's the idea of leveling. And it's pretty simple when you talk about these visual appearance things. It's a little more complicated when you talk about behaviors, but no less critical and no less what you're being judged on as a man. So let's look at some behavioral leveling ideas. One is being bold, being like highly, highly assertive. So if you're a guy who's constantly had negative social feedback, constantly been picked on, never had a lot of social success, you're probably going to be very shy and timid. So that's the behavior, that shy and timid behavior is the behavior of a guy who's like, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 out of 10 as a man. But if you're bold, if you're like, hey, what's up, girl? I'm hot. I just want to come talk to you, like kind of cheesy bold. Well, it indicates that you're not so low level that you're like scared to ever be bold or confident. On the other hand, it's socially and calibrated, it's try hard. It's kind of like the equivalent to someone who has money doesn't have to tell you they have money. They don't have to walk around being like, hey girl, I'm rich. It's just something you'll find out about them and something they're secure about. If you have to be like, hey girl, I'm confident, that shows you're not actually truly confident, right? And so basically, that's the kind of thing that's gonna level you at like a 4 or 5, maybe 6 out of 10, something like that. Right? And then maybe let's say you learn to be confident and like a little bit cocky, arrogant, obvious, but you're congruent with it. You make good eye contact, you're calm with it. It doesn't even seem quite as try hard. Maybe now that's like a 7 or 8 leveling behavior. And then the truly 9 or 10 leveling behavior is like what I said, where you have money, but you don't have to tell anybody. You have that confidence, but you're not saying, hey, I'm confident, hey, I'm cool. You're just saying hi, and everything is conveyed, right? And so those are kind of the different leveling behaviors. Let's talk about, you have a behavior that levels you at a 7. What's gonna happen? Say, again, you have maybe like a bold direct opener. So maybe bold direct opener executed relatively well. Says you're like a 7 or 8 out of 10. You go use that opener on a girl who's a 6, 6.5 out of 10, and she is going to love you for it. Because she's gonna see this guy is higher value than me, and very clearly that's the case, but also very clearly he's not so much higher value than me that he's just gonna cheat on me, ditch me, desert me. As a girl who's a 6.5 or a 7, she's looking for a guy at exactly your caliber, and you've given her a clear, honest indicator you are that caliber. She's gonna like it, and she might even expressly tell you she likes it. She might even tell you later, hey, that was really attractive. Hey, I really like that thing about you. And so you learn that this behavior is very attractive because you've gotten compliments on it. And you go do it on a girl who's a 9. But to her, that behavior that's saying, hey, I'm a 7, 7.5, 8, she's not interested. That's not a win for her because she can get a guy who's a 9, right? So that's actually a loss for her. And instead of her being like, wow, I'm impressed, I'm attracted, she's gonna be like, cool, thanks for trying, have a nice night, nice to meet you. And this is what makes games so hard to learn, because the very same thing that worked for you, and the very same thing that you even got compliments on, and you drew away as a lesson that that was good game, is the exact same thing that is now fucking you up in your game. The exact same thing that worked before is the exact same reason why you're not working. And this is a huge reason why guys get into plateaus. This is a huge reason why guys will get better, and then they will just completely stagnate at a particular level. It's because the exact thing that got them there is the same exact thing that is keeping them there and keeping them from leveling up. So the question that's probably on your mind at this point is, how do I identify leveling behaviors and how do I correct leveling behaviors? Because Todd, it's all well and good to tell me these things exist and they're holding me back, but what should I actually do about it? So I'm gonna give you some tips for both. First of all, how to identify leveling behaviors. And like I mentioned, it's a little bit tough because they don't always fail, right? In fact, by definition, a leveling behavior should succeed up to a certain level and should fail above that level, right? So that's why it's paradoxical, that's why it's difficult. However, leveling behaviors will tend to be gimmicky, right? If you catch yourself doing things in your game that even while they may seem to work sometimes, they're different than your behavior around your good friends, different than your behavior around girls you're already dating, those tend to be gimmicky behaviors, right? So if you are getting attraction based on some little glitch in the matrix or some little unusual behavior, then there's a good chance it'll work in some contexts, not work in other contexts. It may well be a leveling behavior. If you're getting attraction based on genuinely being yourself and being the same person you are around people who you believe you have value with, that's probably not gimmicky. That's probably a much more genuine display of value, and that's probably something that will transcend that leveling threshold. So ask yourself, am I putting on a persona? Am I acting differently than I would with my friends? Am I acting differently than I would with a girl I'm already dating, a girl that I already believe is going to go home with me no matter what? If any of these things are true, it's quite possible that your behavior is a leveling behavior and you may need to work on it. Now, if the behavior is working for you, by all means, keep doing it until the point that it stops working, but be aware that it might be a leveling behavior and look for alternatives. Look for other ways to achieve the same thing in your interaction that are more natural, that aren't leveling, so that when you do reach that plateau, you won't be stuck there and you won't be, sitting there banging your head against the wall for months, not making improvement, because that is one of the most frustrating things in game, okay? So if it seems gimmicky, if it seems divorced from your normal personality, if it seems like you're succeeding based on a glitch or an unusual little phenomenon, as opposed to by genuinely conveying your personality in the way that you do in situations where you're comfortable, that's a good indicator it's leveling. In terms of how to work on your leveling, I'll take a little page from the system and talk about 3 of the sections we have in there that actually are designed specifically to help you with leveling and get you through this. The first is we have the beginner roadmap, and this talks about a lot of the behaviors that guys have that are really holding them back. For example, bad fashion, bad hygiene, bad mentality and mindsets, those kind of things that you may have all the greatest pickup techniques in the world. You may be able to get the girl's attention. You may even be able to set a frame, but if when you start letting the girl know what your life is like, when you start talking to her about what you're really into, it's going to become very, very clear you fundamentally just don't get it, or fundamentally clear that your life isn't one that she would want to be invited into. So one fundamental area of leveling to handle is make sure that your life is a palatable one. Make sure that your life is one that you're enjoying and that you're proud of, so that all the game that you have isn't wasted once you get the girl in the door. So that's a lot of what we talk about in the beginner roadmap, and it's actually something that very few people have talked about in game and very, very essential in that way. Next thing we have is the intermediate roadmap, where we do talk about a lot of these leveling behaviors, a lot of these technical things, a lot of the specifics, a lot of the specific leveling behaviors, a lot of specific leveling situations. And a big one of those, which is a theme throughout the system, is the theme of subtlety. Right? When you first come into game, you basically don't have a game plan at all. You're lost, you're confused, and the girl will know you don't know what you're doing. The set will go nowhere, and it'll be obvious that nothing's gonna happen. It'll be obvious that you're afraid to show any kind of interest. It'll be obvious you're clueless, right? Next level up is where you do have a game plan, but it's very clear you're implementing that game plan. It's very clear to the girl, oh, this guy has an agenda, he likes me, he wants something from me, he's trying to do something to me. Well, if I really, really like him, maybe I'll let him, but probably not. Because nobody likes to feel coerced. Nobody likes to feel forced or frame controlled. People like to feel like things just happened, like to feel like it was their decision, their idea. And so we talk a lot in the system about the path to subtlety, the path towards making it not feel like game anymore, making it a shared experience, making it feel like it just happened, right? Making it so that instead of the girl knowing, oh, this guy's using game on me, instead she's thinking, oh, this guy's really fun, this guy's really cool, I hope he likes me, I hope I can have him. And that's that next transition up, all right? But that, even as you're being more subtle, you can't be subtle in a gimmicky way. You need to be subtle in a way that comes from understanding the real frame of where your value comes from, understanding the frame of who you want to be and the dynamic that you want to have to offer the most value to the girl. And that's what you want to get to in the end of the day. So that's a little bit on leveling, a little bit on how to identify leveling, a brief bit on how to go about fixing it in the different stages, right? You want to fix it on the stage of getting your life together, on the stage of technical, and then on the stage of making things more subtle, on the stage of making the experience of going through the process painless, positive, fun for the girl, and making it just happen. Because girls do want to have sex with you probably as much or more than you want to have sex with them, but they're in this weird position where they can't feel slutty about it, they can't feel at fault for it. So it's your job to help them through that experience and to be that guy who knows how to make it feel good for them. All right, so that's a lot on leveling, a little about the system, and another quick reminder, the system is only at the special launch price for 48 more hours or less from the time you see this video. So you want to check it out really soon, systembytodd.com. That price is gonna be gone. And again, check out the page, see what people are saying. It's probably the best reviewed program I've ever put out. I'm not gonna talk it up, I'll let the other people that have commented do that for me. But check it out, and then check out the next video. I'll see you there.